welcome to our session, the next in the Admirals Hot Topic webinars. As I said, hope you can see me, hope you can hear me. Great to have people here with us today, and what we're interested in here is talk about is, of course, COVID-19, and in particular how the pharmaceutical companies have fared through that. But first and foremost, as always, okay, if you're joining us here in the room, or if you're joining us on our YouTube stream, then be sure to be sure to subscribe, be sure to like the video, and also just check out the amazing resources that will be provided to you there. But as I said, great to have you all here today, and what we're looking forward to is looking at quite an interesting series of stocks and charts, and using that to give us a bit of insight into whether that is still an opportunity for us here. So what we're going to do is we'll just bear with us. What I'll do is I'll bring up the slides, and we'll look to begin. Thanks. Just waiting there for me to become the host, and once that happens, then what we'll do is I will bring up the slides for you. And whilst we're doing that, as I said, we're going to talk about pharmaceutical companies. Now, it might be something that you are an active trader in, perhaps it's something you're an active investor in, but or maybe it's something completely new to you. It'd be interesting to know. Just let us know what you think and see from the session, and just by all means, just if you've got thoughts or ideas, then by all means just put them in the chat box, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can put that in the comments section, and we'll be able to take it from there. So I'm hoping that I'm host now and stuff, so we can. Yep, there we go. I'm hoping that you can basically just bring that up. Super. I hope you can all hear me. Hope you can all see me. Hope you can see the slides as well. That's the important thing. And as I said, we're going to talk about, how have the pharmaceutical companies done during this last 18 months of the COVID-19 epidemic. So for those of you, here we are, Admirals, okay, a Forex CFD broker with a wide range of financial instruments, many of which we're going to talk about today are tradable on the MT4 and MT5 platforms. They are licensed and regulated across a wide range of regulatory environments, and providing competitive spreads on the most popular trading products. If you have a question about Admirals, please get in touch with your account representative, and they'll be very happy to help guide you. And as always, just providing a bit of insight on Admirals. Okay, they now offer copy trading. So if you're a successful trader looking to build a business, that might be of interest to you, or whether you're a trader and just don't have the time in your busy life to trade full time, and you may wish to allocate funds to successful traders, well, then that might be an opportunity for you. As I said, if you get in touch with your account representative, they'll be very happy to help guide you. So for those of you also, those of you who are social media savvy and on Instagram, you can also follow us now on Admirals Global's app, Admirals Global on Instagram. And you'll find a wide range of posts there, just about actually news about financial markets, but also insight into when these sessions are with myself or with my colleagues, Jens and Marcus. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are we going to talk about today? What's on the agenda? Well, as the name implies, we're going to look at how did individual pharmaceutical companies respond to COVID-19. We'll have a little look about who have been the winners and the losers, and in particular, we're going to look at some charts and talk about, how can we engage with them? Is there still an opportunity? And if there is, what is that particular opportunity? As I said, I appreciate we normally have a broad range of experience who join us here for our sessions in the room. And so from people who are complete beginners to very experienced traders. So, you know, as I said, maybe pharmaceuticals are something that is new to you, maybe something that you actively trade and engage with. If you do, that'd be great to hear what your own thoughts and comments are about that, because invariably that you know, that also makes for an engaging session for us all. So for those who don't know me, my name's Paul. I've traded for many years. My own primary focus is on FX indices and commodities, but you know, as a trader, I love to look at a chart. Okay, I love to look at opportunity, and you know, this is what we're going to be viewing here today. For myself, okay, for my longer term trades, I'm a trend trader, and for my shorter intraday trades, I'm a reversal trader, stroke mean reversion trader. That's the way I look to operate. And today, we're going to be looking at, you know, for longer term positions, what, if any, trends have been existing? Are they still there? Oh, you know, will we be able to engage with them? So let's have a talk about pharmaceutical companies. Okay, as the slide says there, ladies and gentlemen, you know, the world has been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and its fallout for the last 18 months or so. And, you know, I don't need to tell you too much about that. You know, you're experiencing, you're living it yourselves. You'll have had, you know, both your good points and bad points from it. And as the slide says, during that time, a lot of resource and energy was placed by governments on finding a suitable vaccine. Now, I'm not here, okay, to sort of provide insight into the efficacy of the different vaccines. You know, we are merely traders after all, okay, and I don't claim in any way to be an expert in either vaccines or, you know, even pharmaceutical companies, okay. However, as traders, we can take some time to look at these pharmaceutical companies who have been involved and determine who have been the winners and losers, and take a look and see whether there is still an opportunity for us within these particular sector, and also with individual stocks. So, you know, let's just, you know, put that we are looking at here from the viewpoint, okay, through the prism of being traders, just looking at particular stocks that have been of interest to not only financial markets, but to the world in general. All right, everybody, you know, a year, 18 months on, lots of people will have heard and be understanding of the names of the major companies who are creating and basically distributing those kind of global vaccines. And that's, you know, that's kind of an interesting element. And as we get down to the sort of the back end of the slideshow this afternoon, it's a case of understanding, you know, how that will play out, what that will actually bring, to us. So, you know, as I said, we won't look to give a full breakdown of either the COVID-19 or what the vaccines are, because some of the vaccines are very different in how they are created and how they're born. As I said, you know, we're traders. We're not, you know, we're not vaccine specialists. Okay, we're not medical people. We're traders looking at charts to see whether there is actually an opportunity for us. Okay, so we're going to focus on the major vaccines, and I appreciate that there have been other ones that are out there. But what I'm going to do is, you know, I'm going to focus on ones that are from tradable companies, okay, companies that are on stock markets that allow you to operate and engage with them, whether you be a long-term investor or you're a short-term trader. So we'll look at companies, and as I said, names that you probably now know and now are household names, companies like Gilead, Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, okay, and, you know, these are the ones who have either worked on, created vaccines, and are, as I say, you know, they are companies that trade on stock markets, and so there is that opportunity for us to be able to trade through. And actually, the interesting thing is, of course, is that, you know, we're going to use an array of charts, but Gilead, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, you know, they are all tradable, okay, through the Admirals platforms there, through both MT4 and MT5. So you'll be able to find them there. I've also put in what you'll see is their kind of, you know, what would you call it, like their social media ticker. You know, if you wanted to actually read more about those particular companies, maybe you might be interested in them. Maybe you might be interested in the specific fundamentals that are underlying in those companies, okay, and that's fair. And we are going to look at one little element of that later on. But the reality also is that, you know, we're going to be mostly focusing on, you know, just looking at the charts of those companies and seeing how prices reflected the state of the market, state of, you know, psychology, and actually, you know, how that has played itself out there in financial markets. So I've sort of put this slide up before, and I think it's always good to have it as a caveat, something that we can, help us focus on what we want to look at in particular with regards to trading. Is that when we're looking at particular sectors and stocks, it's important for us to make a bit of a decision in terms of how we are coming to this market. Okay, being able to define how we're coming. Are we coming simply as a trader who is likely to be following momentum, whether that be bullish momentum or bearish momentum, or perhaps maybe we're a value investor looking to pick up cheap stocks, or maybe we're a growth investor believing that actually there might be opportunity for us, as a kind of a longer term growth play. The important thing is to know is which one you are before you pull the trigger. Okay. Sometimes I find, new traders, they want to be a trader, they'll go into a stock, okay, the trade doesn't really work out. And instead of them actually doing the right thing, which is just to cull the trade, cut the loss and step aside, well, they just try to turn that trade into an investment and just let it run, okay. And that is not really, that's not really a smart way to operate long term as a sustainably successful trading business. Okay, you're either a trader or an investor when you look at a particular, actually, I was going to say stock, but actually any particular instrument, any particular asset, you need to realize which one you are. Okay, and the important thing is to know which one you are before you pull the trigger. That's absolutely key. All right, so to give us a little bit of an overview, all right, let's start with two of the ETFs, the exchange traded funds that cover the pharmaceutical sectors, PGP and IHE. If you're not entirely sure what ETFs are and how they are created and how they're used, well then my colleague Jens did a couple of great webinars there as part of the Admirals Hot Topic and Trading Spotlight webinar series. And if you go into the Admirals webinar archive, both on YouTube and on Facebook, you'll be able to find Jens's videos on ETFs. Okay, and I commend you to go and have a watch them and understand a little bit about how to understand ETFs and how they can help you and how you can actually utilize them. But we have ETFs for the pharmaceutical sectors, and that gives us just a little bit of a, let's call it like a big picture overview to begin with in terms of looking at the pharmaceutical companies. So I'm just going to move these here out of the way. So this is PGP. This is just a very simple weekly chart. It's the Invesco Pharmaceuticals ETF. It is basically, it's effectively like a wrapper, okay, wrapped around quite a few pharmaceutical companies, some of which, like Pfizer, etc., are included in the group we're going to particularly focus on. But as I said, what we want to do is just to give ourselves a bit of a big overview of the actual pharmaceutical sector, okay? And for some people might actually like to just trade or invest through an ETF. That might actually be the way they look to operate. And, and that's your particular choice based upon your own particular risk parameters and lifestyle and access. But, we're here to look at charts, okay? We're traders. And, as a trader, I love to look at charts, okay? I love to have a look at charts, see what the score is, and actually build a big picture of what what's going on in that particular market. So let's pull up the old drawing tool here, shall we? And we'll look at that. Okay. So as I said, this is an ETF of the pharmaceutical sector. And we can see, back here, 2014, 2015, we had a great trend. And I apologize there a little bit for my drawing, as I always say. Forgive me for my drawing. I'm a better trader than I am an artist, thankfully. Okay, but hopefully you get the gist in that. We were in a great trend here. Okay, we peaked out there around about $84, and we had a kind of couple of years of drifting our way down there. Okay, you can see that drifting our way down there. Okay, down towards 54, and really then I would probably say they were kind of pretty much in a range for quite a few years, for about sort of 4 years ago, 3-4 years. And then here we have this was the kind of the COVID drop, right? Dropped down to $48, which is what hadn't been seen since back into sort of 2013, 2014. But since then, you can see that we actually had our drift our way up, and then we had a little bit of that's kind of a little bit of a block there around the US elections last year, and then invariably after, for those of you who remember well, after the US elections, what we also saw then was effectively the announcement that there were vaccines coming and that they were basically they were being successful, and you can see for yourself how the pharmaceutical ETF okay, responded, okay, in terms of from trading just under 68. We've driven up, say, way up there over the last few months, up to around about as high of about 82, 83. And now, I would look at us as, we're in a bit of a, we're in a little bit of a wedge there, okay, which means it's got a fair bit of way to go if it continues there. As I said, forgive my drawing, but hopefully you get the idea. So, we have not hit the highs of a few years ago, even though, some of those companies have had, massive amounts of funding and investor interest in them, okay, and that's what we're going to look at a little bit more. So, it has been a great year for that ETF. Okay, it's grinding its way up there. As I say, I'd say it's in just a kind of little bit of an upwards rising wedge, which means at some point it will end, but that has the opportunity to go much further. And I think it is likely to go above and break that previous high of around about 84. But as always, I'm always interested when price gets to levels like that. I'm always keen to see, how does the market react? Okay, how does price react? So it's definitely one to have it in your watch list and to keep an eye on, how that plays out over, I suspect, over the next few weeks. So here's the other ETF, and one of the reasons I looked at PGP thinking that it will probably break its recent highs, okay, and grind its way up, is because if we look at IHE, which is iShares Pharmaceutical ETF, well, you can see that's actually what's been going on. Once again, we're looking at a weekly chart here, okay, of the ETFs. Not entirely dissimilar, okay, in some respects, okay. We hit highs here back in sort of 2014, 2015, around about $184, and after we drifted off that, well, then we were mostly in a range, okay, mostly in a kind of a range there for about what's that about, from about 2016 to 2020, 4 years, in a range between about 130 and 170, okay, a $40 range. We were back and forth there. Now, listen, if you're a range trader, you're loving it. That's great. There's plenty of opportunity there. Okay, if you're a trend trader on longer kind of term trends, you're going to struggle there, and that's why sometimes having this big picture can help you just ensure that you're employing the right trading method. Those of you who were here for one of our sessions last week that I did, and we talked about basically turn around your trading, one of the important things is to understand the market environment you're operating in so that you can employ the correct trading method. It's no use having a fantastic trading method if the markets are range bound. You're still going to struggle, all right? But anyway, lesson learned. And here we had, just at the start of 2020, you've seen this before. I've talked about this on plenty of charts now, that kind of crash down there, okay? And then we had that turnaround. And this is what's saying, compared to PGP, we've had a little bit of a difference in IHE. What I'm interested in is that, this always fascinates me here, okay, is remember what I said just about PGP, is watch to see how price reacts when it gets to recent highs. And what we can see is that what happened here on IHE is once it came up here, then what did it print here? It printed a really big bearish engulfing, bearish key reversal candle, dropped its way back down to those, kind of those highs there, okay, of 2018, and then used that as support before it moved back up there. And hopefully you can see there, having got back up there, we had a couple of quite big shift candles, and now we've just been sort of tickling the soft underbelly of $200 there, right? So I'd say IHE is a little bit ahead of the game, so hence why PGP, which we've just looked at, I'd be saying that is probably, if it can get above that recent high, it's probably going to act not dissimilar to IHE there. So once again, it has been a great year, 18 months for the sake of having been down here around about $116, 15 months or so later, we are now up just underneath $200. So, that is in itself giving you, a great insight and a great indication into the strength of the pharmaceutical sector overall, generally, okay, over the last 15 to 18 months. But not unsurprisingly, that has also been focused on certain particular stocks within those particular areas, and that's what we're going to have a little look at now. But as I said, it always helps. Have a look at the ETFs of the stock sectors. Just get a big picture view. Okay, you can get a big picture view, and then you can work your way down to looking at individual stocks themselves. So here is the first of the stocks we're going to look at, Gilead. Now, I mean, Gilead is a name that is quite well known these days. If you watch a certain TV show, okay, that has been associated with it, and it is also the name, whether that's fortunate or unfortunate, of this particular company. And Gilead, you know, they were of interest to people a year or so ago, because Gilead was associated very early on with believing that, you know, that they may have created, you know, the first vaccine, okay. And it's kind of interesting because to look at how it was reflected in the share price. Once again, this is it's a weekly chart, okay? It's a weekly chart, Gilead, very simple, plain chart there, as you can see. And, you know, going back, you know, over the last couple of years, okay, you know, once again, you know, a bit like the pharmaceutical sectors we looked at, the ETFs, you know, pretty much in a range there between about $80 and $60, okay, $62, $80, okay, in a kind of a tight range. And in fact, actually, for, you know, the year before COVID started, you're in an even smaller range between about $70 and $62, okay, tight range. And then what we can see is that actually price kind of blew out of there, and it's very messy. And I remember talking about it to clients of mine, you know, a year or so ago, okay, and over a year ago. And just, you know, it was a real case. You can see the price action there, okay, for those months between, from the start of 2020 through till kind of April, May, you know, it was actually very, very messy. And then what happened is, as the news started to come out that they weren't as successful as they'd hoped to be, well, what we can see here is, you know, having tipped out there around about $85, price drifted all its way down, okay, all the way through the kind of the second half, Q3 of 2020. And actually, it sort of broke this 62.50, 62 level, which you can see had been very strong support there, okay, for about a sort of a 12 to 15 month period. It broke it here, put in a kind of a bit of a double bottom there, you know, big shift candle to get it back up above that level. And then actually what we've seen is, you know, that 62.50 has again acted as support, and price is just grinding its way up there now, okay? It's just up above that $70 there. So as we will see, compared to some of the other charts, you know, it's been a very mixed picture for Gilead. I don't think people would call this, you know, one of the winners of it. You know, it might have been initially, but actually, you know, for the last year or so, the price has not reflected that at all. Okay, and that sort of, you know, that kind of inability to create it and deliver that vaccine has weighed on the share price there. Okay, and you know, it's interesting share price in terms of how it came down and got beneath 62 and then double bottomed it and has ground its way up, which would make you think that there might be opportunity for it to sort of get back up towards that kind of $78, $80 area, okay, if it continues in that sort of uptrend. And if it continues, you know, we see those ETFs as well with that, well then invariably, you know, so this would be something that, you know, you would keep on your watch list to watch it, but it's, you know, it has not been a winner so far, but there's the opportunity that it may actually continue to just grind its way north, you know, over the next few weeks. So it's a watch list. You know, it hasn't been a winner, but it's something to add to your watch list at the moment. And let's have a look at one of the big boys then, okay? All right, so this is PFE Pfizer, okay? Once again, simple weekly chart of Pfizer there. Kind of interesting for lots of reasons. Pfizer, you know, it depends on who you'd call it. You know, Pfizer themselves, you know, set up in America, but it was from, I think my understanding is it was from German immigrants, okay? German immigrants to America, set it up there. It has a connection, strong connection back with Europe and Germany in particular. But as I said, you know, we're not here to go into the in-depth of the individual stocks. You know, there's plenty of material out there for you to look at. What we want to look at is, well, you know, is there an opportunity here? And look at here at Pfizer, okay, weekly chart, as I said, you know, not unsurprisingly, you know, this is one of the reasons we looked at the ETFs was that, you know, it was pretty much in a block there between about $33 and $44 there. You can see it was trading there for actually quite a few years. And then what we had is, you know, you've got the COVID crash there, okay? Price pops its way back up, comes back down, and sort of just, you know, it just teases this, you know, it has a bit of a fault thing. It's a bit of a bear trap, okay, that basically it creates here. Depending upon your particular trading style, okay, you know, some people might say, well, Paul, you know, was that an inverse head and shoulder, a very scruffy one that we created? You could perhaps look at that with a very, you know, with a very sort of slanted there you go, head and shoulders line. Hopefully you can see how it was respected. But once it was back up above that $33 area, it has ground its way there. Okay, it had a bit of a bump there. Okay, at the end of 2020. That's no surprise. That's when November time, sometimes when the news about vaccines were coming out. Pfizer basically they linked with BioNTech, okay, a company, and they have created their vaccine, and you can see that the effect that had on the share price. We can see that having risen up here, okay, it went into a small little nice little pennant there. A lot of that issue was there to do with delivery, okay, of particular stocks to certain countries and certain blocks. But once that was measured, you can see into a nice continuation triangle, and prices actually just exploded out there, okay, over the last couple of months. Why had that occurred? Well, as we'll realize, both Pfizer and Moderna are selling their COVID vaccines at for profit, and invariably, I think it was about a couple of weeks ago, okay, just at the sort of end of July, start of August, they announced that both them and Moderna were raising the price, okay, of their COVID-19 vaccine. That was happened just the day or two before government came out and said that actually 2 vaccines is not going to be enough, okay, and actually going to need one every 6 months from now on. And we're going to come back and look at that in a moment with some of the big boys, okay, but invariably that is what actually helped those shares rocket up there from $40 to $52 over a few weeks. So kind of that has made its move, and as a momentum trader, you'd be saying that has actually made its move. Now you're looking to see, well, actually, would it come back down to around about that 44 level, and see what does it do when it comes there? Okay, does it build a base to take a longer term position, or does it come back into that range? So my view would be that I'd be waiting to see what happens and when price reaches that particular area. And here's a fascinating chart here, and this is Moderna, a company, basically European company that came out of kind of nowhere. mRNA, which is their ticker, which is very fortuitous based upon what they are. Their vaccine is an mRNA vaccine, and what you can see here is this weekly chart is that really as we've discussed. For the years beforehand, you can get the gist, is that actually it was really going nothing. It was trading really, kind of around between about $20 to $30 there. And then actually, as we went into May, in last year, you can see it started to rally its way up there, okay, as it started to, news came out about them working on a particular vaccine that is a kind of an ascending triangle, very simple classical trending. And so we've gone from back in, let's say, March, May of 2020, where we were trading, as I said, between about $20 to $40. Okay, suddenly, by May, a year later, we're up at $200. Okay, and once again, as I said, there's a case of both Moderna and Pfizer. They sell their vaccine for profit, and it was announced that A, they were raising the prices of their vaccines, and B, that invariably governments have said will now need a booster shot every 6 months. So of course you can see what happened there is that had a huge impact on the Moderna share price. We went from being just 18 months ago, as I said, in a block around between $20 to $40. A year later, you're up to $200, and then in a short space of time, we go from $200 to literally just up underneath $500. Okay, there you can see that for yourself. Quite some share move there. Okay. Once again, you have to make a view. Are you a momentum trader? Are you an investor? It's clear to see that the momentum trade like there has actually it's happened. It's gone. You can see for yourself that it's actually blown through. My own view, as an experienced trader, is that once price starts going vertical, and that once there's almost like a parabolic move. Okay, once price goes vertical like that, the kind of you've missed the party. Okay, and I never chase a trade, because invariably it rarely works out well. And as you can see here, as it got up to close to 500, it's actually sort of dropped back down to to just above 360 region there. Okay, so my view is there's a kind of a line in the sand there, between a zone there between about 300 and 350. and I'll be interested to see if price drifts down to there and what it does there. Does it come back down to 200? Okay, in which case you might be a momentum on the bearish side, or does it base and give you an opportunity for a next leg up based upon what we will see happen over the next few months? But as you can see, that is, quite some chart there, quite some absolutely, stunning chart there in terms of what's available and what's been going on. And if you were if you're someone, and I had clients, myself, okay, who bought in at like $20-$40 and stuff. Of course they've done very well, and fair play to them, congratulations. But equally, it's I'd say at the moment that is you're waiting for the next move. Okay, the momentum trade has already occurred there. So, we've looked at Gilead, we've looked at Pfizer, we've looked at Moderna, and here is AstraZeneca, who this was the kind of Oxford and AstraZeneca, and also they came together for their particular vaccine. Okay, AstraZeneca is kind of like UK-Swedish company. And once again, it's the weekly chart here of what you can see, and it's kind of been a bit of an interesting one. Here is that and this is a good indication that markets don't operate in a silo. Stocks don't operate in a silo. That they can be buffeted around, okay, by geopolitical events, which we'll talk about in a moment. But on the weekly chart of it here, AstraZeneca wasn't doing massive amounts there, okay, wasn't really sort of setting the world alight. It started to drift its way up as we went into 2020. Yes, it did have a bit of a COVID drop, but not as steep or as deep as many other companies, including pharmaceutical companies. And then actually what we saw was, price started to push its way up there, okay, and we got above 80, 88, we got into 90s, okay, in terms of the price, and then invariably we put in a sort of a really kind of a big, almost a sort of a blow off top here, and then price price fell its way down to around about 88, okay. And then what we saw was, from the end of last year through at the start of this year, we had a bit of a kind of a descending wedge there. Hopefully you can see that. Now, this was an element of, what we saw with regards to the geopolitical events, is in that effectively there was arguments because of who AstraZeneca had promised to deliver supply stock to, whether it be to the European Union or to the UK, and also effectively that it was a case of it was rather how should we put it. It was rather disparaged, should we say, by European Union nations, okay, basically to cover up the fact that the European Union nations hadn't been able to get their complete supplies, and that had an impact on the share price over that period of time. What we found out subsequently was that invariably that that the EU's comments were neither neither accurate, okay, or reflective of the AstraZeneca vaccine. And once that was clear, you can see it broke that trend line, and it's headed its way back up there, okay, nicely to that kind of 88 area level. Where we are at the moment, I look at that and see, are we double topping there, okay, at the moment, okay? Is there a double top? Well, it's quite simple. If it starts to break beneath this kind of these levels here, we'll see a drop down there. If it gets above that kind of 88 area and holds above it on the weekly level, well, I'd be saying that is actually kind of a bullish move to get us heading up there towards 100 and stuff. So that is what I'd be looking at the moment. It is at a position where it's getting ready to make a decision. Is it going to drift down off that reversal double top, or will it get above that level, hold above it, and then make its next leg up? So at the moment, this is a case of, we can watch this. This is kind of a watch and shoot in terms of, just see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks, because I think that will have an impact on how we look to trade it ourselves. And here's one of the other companies. Is kind of American company, okay, Johnson & Johnson, who many of you will probably know for baby powder, talcum powder, etc. But also they aligned themselves with a company I think called Janssen, and between them they created a vaccine. The difference in the vaccine is that it's a single shot vaccine. It's still been kind of working its way through it was working its way through the system. I should probably sort of declare declare a kind of a not necessarily a conflict of interest, but one of my aunts works for Johnson & Johnson as one of their chemists and such and what have you. But that doesn't give you any, that doesn't really give you any particular insight or help other than just to understand how pharmaceutical companies in general work. And what you can see here is that Johnson & Johnson, the story is not that dissimilar to lots of the others that we looked at, and the ETF sectors, is that it was actually pretty much in a range, okay, for the majority of the last few years, just literally going sideways. We had a little push up, followed by the kind of COVID crash, and but it came back quickly. Johnson & Johnson came back quickly, and then really went a bit sideways, all right. And it was only as they started to announce, that they were creating the vaccine, that it was going to be a single shot. And then that started to effectively, help it there. And I see that now there, as hopefully you can see that, that's the weekly chart. Once again, price is just grinding its way north. Okay, it's grinding its way particular higher. We've just literally touched underneath $180. Okay, and hopefully you can see, I see that there's quite a nice supporting trend line on there. My view is that, if you're a trader, as long as that trend line holds, well, then invariably there's opportunities to continue working with that. Remember what we looked at, the ETFs are back there, they've been grinding their way north. And so, a very simple way for a trader to look at that would be just to look at how that supporting trend line and see, as it comes back to there, will that hold? If it continues to hold, well, does that provide you opportunities to sort of trade back in, as momentum comes back into it? So it's kind of a nice chart. The weekly chart there is kind of clear. You sort of, that trend line is what is our kind of our decision point. That's what we're looking at there at the moment. So I'll just move this over here. Is that when we look at these companies, okay, we're looking at are you a trader or are you an investor, right? And in particular, I wouldn't necessarily say any of these are particularly value stocks. Okay, none of them are really particularly cheap. You're really looking at it as a case of, is it a growth opportunity for you? Okay, my own view is that on quite a few of them, as we touched, certainly things like Moderna, etc., is that, let's call it like the easy first momentum moves. That they have already occurred. Okay, in a few of those, particularly things like Moderna. So does that mean that the opportunity is over? No, not at all. We've just looked at a few points there, where we know that there are going to be markets that will have to make decision points, and those decision points are what will give us an opportunity to maybe either get ready to short those particular stocks if price drifts its way down, or to establish a long position if it comes back to decision point and the existing trend reexerts itself. But also, what I wanted to have a little look at, something a bit different, something a bit interesting, okay, is, to look at as in terms of from, an investor in a longer term picture, and also how it affects the price actions. Well, I thought, let's have a look at the quarterly revenues, okay. This might be something that's a bit new to you, maybe not seen before, not relevant to it, but I just thought it'd be something a little bit different for us to look at as traders, investors. So here is a chart for Pfizer. Okay, this is the monthly chart now. Okay, it's the monthly chart. We looked at it earlier as a weekly chart, and what I'm interested here for us is that this is a revenues for the company on a quarterly basis. Okay, every quarter. So as you can probably see, over the last few years, the quarterly revenues for Pfizer have been, as you can see there, from around about, let's say, 8.5 billion, okay, 8.5 billion a quarter, up towards 12, almost 13 billion a quarter. Okay, I mean, that's those are that's astonishing revenues, really. But what we can see here is that actually, in the last couple of years, those quarterly revenues were dropping, and we actually were down here, okay, at around about the start of we're dropping down here towards around about 9.5 billion a quarter. Okay, 9.5 billion euros a quarter. Excuse me. However, what you can see for Q1 of 2021 and Q2 of 2021 is that those numbers have increased dramatically. Okay, the numbers in terms of the revenue, from being down there at under 10, 9 to 10, it first went to 12.4 billion, and the last one's 16 billion. Okay, and just think about that. That's the difference that has made from, even if you just say that it's they're generating another 4 to 5 billion a quarter in revenues. And a lot of that is, as I said, is going to come from, as we've seen, the raising the prices of the COVID shots. And also, governments are saying, well, mandating now that, 2 shots aren't enough. You're going to need to have a shot every 6 months. We've also seen, countries have been buying enough to give, their people 10 shots. That is fantastic, revenues for companies like Pfizer. And you have to ask yourself, do you think they'll give that up? Do you think they would willingly give up that what could be between 4 to 6 billion a quarter in revenues? Okay, that you're looking there at it's kind of between 15 to 20 billion euros extra a year. Okay, in revenues. Is any company likely to want to give that up? I would suggest that that is not the case and stuff. And so then you look at, well, if you're a longer term investor, is that something that that would be of interest or use to yourself in terms of recognizing that there's all those kind of revenues coming into the company? What impact will that have on the share price? What impact might that have on dividends that they particularly offer to clients? Indeed, so this is something that might be worth having a little bit of a look at for those of you who might be interested on a kind of a longer term basis. And it's a bit of a recurring theme, okay, through quite a few of these. So here's Moderna. Okay, the Moderna, this is the weekly chart, but also what you can see there is, I hope, is the quarterly revenues there. So Moderna 2 years ago was generating quarterly revenues there. What's that? Around about $16 million a quarter. Okay, $16 million a quarter 2 years ago. Well, actually, you can see for Q2 of 2021, it's over 4 billion. All right, it's over 4 billion a quarter. Okay, that's the sort of thing that helps to when a company goes from that to that. That is what actually you help to see the kind of massive run in that we saw in Moderna. And so now you'll be looking and thinking, well, if those are the kind of quarterly revenues they can expect going forward, that's quite astounding. Okay, and that might provide an opportunity then as as a growth investor to look at actually how that plays out for Moderna. And also even for Johnson & Johnson, okay, American company, it's a weekly chart, but once again, hopefully you can see that there's those kind of total revenues, okay, on a quarterly basis. And a couple of years ago, those quarterly revenues were, as you can see there, between about let's say between about kind of 14 to 18 billion dollars a quarter. But now what we're seeing is, now we're actually up to 22, 23, billion a quarter. So, it's maybe not as steep a jump as we've seen with, Moderna and Pfizer, but still, that's still, 3 to 4 billion in revenues a quarter extra. And if that carries on for a year or two, what impact will that have on the share price, on things like, dividends, etc. What will go on there in the company? That is, I find that kind of quite fascinating as to be able to view those numbers. Okay, so I said, there might be let's say the early momentum moves may have happened, but now you might have to be looking at thinking, well, actually, is there opportunity there as a growth investor? It may not necessarily be particularly cheap stocks, but as a case of because there is growth in there, because actually as those revenues come in, and I think Pfizer, if I'm incorrect, Pfizer have already started acquiring other companies, and invariably, if you're getting strong revenues like they have been, all of these things help you build a bigger business. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, the COVID-19 pandemic, it's affected us all in many, many ways. Okay, I don't need to tell you that. But hopefully, as you can see, it's also been an amazing opportunity for certain pharmaceutical companies. Several of them are tradable, okay, and tradable through the Admirals platforms: Gilead, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. And you just need to be aware, are you a momentum trader or are you an investor? Okay, have you got maybe a value or a growth view that's a longer term there? Okay, the important thing for you is to know which one you are before you pull the trigger. Okay, just to have simple rules, simple ideas that you can look at. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, you can join us at the next session, which actually be it's Friday, which is a trading day with professional trader, okay, including going through a trading day with a professional trader. What does his daily routine look like? How does he prepare? What trades is he looking to make that day, and why? That is on Friday, this Friday, 3rd of September. Check your inbox for the webinar link, or head over to the website to sign up. And as always, if you want to contact us, okay, if you've got questions or thoughts, you can do so. Okay, you can email us there at global@admiralmarkets.com. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining us today. I hope you found that interesting. As I said, it might not be an asset class or a series of stocks that you've not really looked at before, something a bit different, but a chart is a chart. As traders, we love to look at charts, don't we? Okay, and hopefully that's just, as I said, give me a bit of food for thought about actually to look at the overall sector. As always, I appreciate you joining us. If you're joining us here on the YouTube channel, then be sure to subscribe on the button below. Okay, if you found this interest useful, give us a like. Maybe you didn't like it, you can put thumbs down. That's fine. We appreciate the feedback. If you've got comments or thoughts, please put them in. We'd be delighted to hear them for you. And it just, it remains for me to say that I wish you the very best of success in your own trading endeavors, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll speak to you soon. Trade well, everybody. Cheers.